Are you the leader of a startup in search of investment? If so, one of the first things that you're going to need to be able to obtain interest in investing in your company is a pitch deck. I seem to keep getting the same question over and over again from different people that I know that are leading startups, where they're asking, hey, can you help introduce us to individuals that would be interested in investing in our startup? I love to help people. Overall, one of my favorite things to do is to utilize my network to connect people together so that they can find the investment that's needed to be able to move their technology or their science forward. Unfortunately, without a pitch deck in place, it's quite challenging to be able to do that. Most investors that I know wouldn't even take an initial sort of conversation with you unless you have a pitch deck in place. If you're new here, my name is Don, and I lead a company called 5280 Life Sciences, and we help our clients manage complexity and increase performance. So today on the Scaling Method Academy, pitch deck. Like I said, I keep getting the same question over and over again, so I thought I would just put together this quick video and presentation for individuals that are looking to get to that initial sort of interest phase with investors. There are other things that we can do as well in terms of looking at the market and other places that my company certainly can help with. But this idea of having a pitch deck in place is something that overall new entrepreneurs need to work through and have the elements together to be able to have that initial conversation. So whenever you're trying to overall look for investors and get that initial investment in place, pitch decks are used oftentimes in emails. So this is not a conversation piece. This is not a presentation that you would put together overall to have a conversation with an investor. A pitch deck is the initial element that will help you get the interest that's needed to be able to find those initial investors in your company. So today we're going to cover some key elements. First of all, the questions at least that I get asked as a leader of a company in the space, what investors need as well. What is the structure of a pitch deck? I also like to use the references of Uber and Airbnb, primarily because they're simple. They are two simple pitch decks to use that I think anybody, no matter what technology or drug that you might be developing, you could use the same sort of framing for being able to develop your pitch deck. And after reviewing about 100 pitch decks in a little over a year, I've been able to sort of see the common themes from different individuals and then provide, overall feedback to them. But it oftentimes leads back to the same sort of structure. What is the story that you want to tell to investors to get them interested? And then lastly, what are some of the things that my company, 5280 Life Sciences, can do to help you in this overall journey? So the question that often gets asked of me is, hey Don, I have an awesome idea for a new company, and I'd like to know if you have any connections that would be interested in investing. My very first response is going to be, I'd love to help. Do you have a pitch deck or a one-pager that I can send over? The whole idea behind this is that investors that I deal with want, to see what your company is all about. Oftentimes, the email response that I get back from the entrepreneur is, but my idea is such a great idea. Let me send you the 50 emails and papers and other artifacts. I've made presentations. I have other people that are interested in potentially investing a year or two down the road. I would love to just send you all of that. There's nothing that I can do with any of that. I can't actually forward it on to any potential investors I can offer some quick advice in terms of, again, going back and developing a pitch deck. And so oftentimes that's where I find myself. What do investors need? Really, a pitch deck is your ticket to play. I mean, more or less, it's the initial thing that is going to show your problem, your solution, and your insight with regards to the thing that you're trying to fix. The other thing that potential investors are going to be looking for is, have you reversed the solution with the problem? So oftentimes the first thing that will exclude anybody from being invested in is putting the solution ahead of the problem. So if you have a technology that is the greatest technology in the world and people should be able to translate that to problems that they have, unfortunately, most investors won't want to move forward. They won't want to look at technologies that are out there, that are looking, to solve some sort of a problem without identifying that problem. What a pitch deck does, it really builds interest. It builds interest with investors. It should answer basic questions about your technology. What is it that your technology does overall to solve the problem that you're looking to solve? One key thing might be that you have a new cancer therapy or a new diagnostic for a cancer therapy. In that case, what is it? What problem are you trying to solve? And what basic questions do investors need to have answers to be able to understand whether or not to invest in it? Things like market size, the impact overall on patients, those sort of things are key to have inside of your pitch deck. The pitch deck needs to stand alone. As I said, a pitch deck is really emailed. It's not something that you're going to get on the phone and walk somebody through. It's something that you're going to send somebody and they're going to go through the slides and decide whether or not, if there's enough interest to carry them to the point of having a conversation with you. It needs to be simple. It has to have, sort of everything broken down into simple English, so that it overall comes across as something that people do want to ask more about and try and understand more about. It also needs to be obvious. So you can't have sort of hidden things inside of the presentation that you expect people to just automatically get. It needs to be obvious and remove as much jargon as possible inside of the presentation itself. So whenever you look at the pitch deck layout, and again, I've reviewed a lot of these things, and whenever I look at them, sometimes I'm actually surprised a little bit by the cover page. Your cover page and title page needs to be legitimate. It needs to be a legitimate title slide and represent your company. So it should have a logo on it. It should be professional. There are companies like Fiverr or 99 Designs that for a very small fee, they can create a logo for your company with just, giving them some basic ideas in terms of what you would like included in the design. Number two, the problem. So what is the overall issue that people face that you are trying to solve with your solution? Again, this needs to be clear and broken down as much as possible for potential investors. What is the target or technology that's going to be used? So oftentimes we're talking about, targets and drugs, or potential technologies whenever it comes to diagnostics. What is it that you're going to solve? You need to be high level but also very specific. So you don't want to write paragraphs or write some sort of technical paper around this. It needs to be something that overall translates well in a few bullet points in terms of what target or technology it is that you're looking to use. What is the market? So oftentimes I tell people I like to see the total global market if you're trying to be a global company. So if you're trying to show somebody what the overall market size is, that needs to be translated in the scope of the company that you're looking to have. I oftentimes also get the same sort of, comment back that, they haven't fully, somebody in the company hasn't fully scoped out exactly what that total addressable market is. And so again, it's one of those opportunities where you see a clear gap in what it is that you're trying to solve. And so the one person that should know what market you're trying to address is the entrepreneur that's leading the company overall. And so, as you look at the investors are not going to go off and, do all of this base research for you. You need to do it yourself. What they're going to do is validate it. And so oftentimes, once it goes to the investor, the first thing that they start to do is, one, try and see if they can see the problem. Do they understand what the problem is? And two, can they also validate some of the things that you have in terms of your total market size that you're looking to address, out there, in your space? I also would say that if you're basing your problem and your technology off of, let's just say, documented papers that are out there, oftentimes those papers in the first few paragraphs of scientific papers, contain some element of the market size. And so, there's one opportunity to be able to establish market sizes, use peer-reviewed papers that are out there that would tell you the total number of patients that could be affected, by a particular, technology or by a particular treatment. Traction. So this one is a tough one in our space because oftentimes for life science companies anyway, you're trying to, establish a lot of very basic things to get started, but also, think a lot of things are expensive in our space. And so they require investment. And so with that said, if you have established, say, initial studies, or if other studies have led you to this technology, that traction is valuable to you. And so being able to establish what's already been done to try and give the investor a better understanding of overall where you're at in this space and what needs to be done to carry things forward is really important. The funding ask. So this has to do with the dollars that you're asking for, but it's also about painting a picture overall in terms of what it is that you need to do. So oftentimes people that come to me, again, they're fairly early stage. They're looking to conduct animal studies. And so, if you need to go conduct animal studies and no other animal studies have been done, say that. But also if you're needing funding to build a sales force to get your technology, out to new markets, also say that. It's an opportunity to paint the picture of what the dollars that you're asking for are going to be used for. Intellectual property. This is an important one in our space as well, because oftentimes technologies are licensed. So if you license technologies from, let's say, a university, is it an exclusive license, or are there other individuals that could be licensing the same technology as well? That's important for the investor to be able to understand. And then lastly, if you have any partners, let's say you develop the technology together, how does that partner landscape look? Is it something that you have the freedom to operate, or is it something that you actually need to collaborate to be able to get that overall freedom to make decisions about where to go with your technology? And then lastly, who's your team? So this is an important one, because whenever I review pitch decks, sometimes I see individuals that are, maybe they have a good background. Maybe they, overall, they come from a prestigious area, and that's important. But if they're not contributing to the bottom line, if they're not overall going to move the experiments forward, I would personally remove them from the pitch deck. It's important to be able to say that you have credibility or individuals that are interested in your technology. But at the same time, you want to be careful about putting people in your pitch deck that actually are not contributing to getting things to that bottom line. One of the examples that I like to use with individuals is outside of our industry, but at the same time provides really good foundational examples of pitch decks. And these two companies, Uber and Airbnb, both provide really good basis of individual companies who were successful at attracting investors, as well as just overall telling their story to investors through their pitch decks. And so first of all, I thought I would just share the number of slides in the pitch deck. So I've seen pitch decks that are very minimal, like the Airbnb one here, where it's 12 slides. I've also seen pitch decks where they're upwards of 50 slides, which is quite a bit excessive whenever it comes to the fact that you're trying to provide a clear, concise message to investors so that they pick up the phone and want to talk to you. So that's the purpose of the pitch deck. It's not to tell from start to finish exactly what's going on with your company. Instead, it's to get to that next conversation is really the purpose in your pitch deck. And so let's just take a little deeper look here. So for number of slides, Uber has 25 slides in their pitch deck versus Airbnb, who has 12. Now, there are some key differences between the two companies and what they use overall in terms of overall materials here. So let's just take a little deeper look at the content. And I tried to summarize as best as possible in the next cells down below that show the key contents of the overall pitch deck. So you have 2 slides in Uber's pitch deck that describe the problem, followed by 2 slides that describe the solution. The next few slides that Uber has, they describe things like their operating principles, followed by the app that they're going to use. And then lastly, they have 8 slides that describe the overall market. Now, this shows current state market as well as future state market for them, because it's important that they sort of describe that they do understand the fact that they're trying to, more or less replace taxis, which have been, kind of a staple, for a long time. And so why would somebody want to shift from one to the other is the story that they're trying to tell. And so they felt that they needed 8 slides to describe the overall market, current state, as well as future state. Their last slide in the pitch deck is their traction slide. And they show the traction slide really to show what they've already done before the investors actually got involved. In Airbnb's case, they go from the problem to the solution. They have 2 slides on their market, so they talk a little bit more about sort of the expanding hotel market, as well as their business model and market adoption. And then lastly, they have the competition and competitive advantage slides included as well. So there are definite differences between both of these, but at the same time, I think it's important to sort of note the problem followed by the solution is absolutely important that it's up front in the pitch deck, just so that it sets that initial stage for any investor that's coming along to look. And then, getting into the other details is more or less decisions in terms of the order based on the storyteller's position. And so based on your business, you may actually have to make different decisions for your particular business that best describes your company and sort of the situation that you're seeing in the overall market. So lastly, how does 5280 Life Science help companies like yours? One of the services that we offer is a CypherBio review. So this essentially will be an overall look at the landscape. We'll have an in-depth discussion with you about where your diagnostic or drug actually fits in the space, and much more in depth, take a look at specific investors that have invested either angel funding or even other Series A, B, etc. Just in terms of investors in the space, and who might be able to help you in the future. We offer a service as well where we review pitch decks, and so feel free to reach out with regards to reviewing your particular pitch deck and providing feedback. There is a 5 to 7 day turnaround in terms of being able to provide in-depth, in writing feedback with regards to your particular pitch deck, but we do try and do that quickly as possible, and there are lots of resources that we have that can actually review them and turn them around. I know I personally have reviewed over 100 different pitch decks in different industries as well, and I'm more than happy to take a look at your particular pitch deck and what might be able to be improved so that the story comes through much better. We help with strategy development, and we have a lot of resources even that have spent their careers in marketing and can provide in-depth feedback with regards to your strategy development, and we'd be happy to get engaged there. And then lastly, as you are getting more and more funding with Series A funding, and growing your overall organization, as you increase the number of resources, one of the things that you will find is that you get less and less efficient. And that's one of the key success areas of this organization. And we definitely would love to help out there. If you like this video, please consider pressing that like button and also subscribing to the channel. We're always trying to come up with new content, so please also feel free to suggest additional topics that we can cover. Thanks so much.